Hello, Journey family and friends. It's Pastor John Hampton here with this week's edition of Midweek Conversation, joined by Pastor Dustin Agard.
Yes, sir. Good to see you.
How you doing, Pastor Dustin?
Doing great. How are you doing?
Well, I feel kind of bummed. We got no hole-in-one stories to talk about today.
That you're aware of.
That I'm aware of. Yeah. You said you've been practicing.
I've been practicing. I pretty much own Pirates Cove.
Oh, man.
So.
Okay. Well, you really did have a real hole-in-one.
I did.
Not at a miniature
For those
golf
that don't know,
course.
Pirates Cove's putt-putt golf.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Hey, so glad to have you. We are continuing day by day in daily wisdom. And if you've not had an opportunity to check out YouTube and journeychristian.com or Journey Christian on the YouTube channel, do that. Subscribe. We're about to hit 4,000 subscribers.
Isn't that cool?
Don't know if you saw that or not.
Yeah.
A little over 3,800 subscribers now. Maybe by the time this airs, we'll have that. But subscribe, you'll get the notifications. And it's been really encouraging. It's been gratifying. It's been a lot just to see the different voices.
Yeah.
Both from not pastors, not necessarily just pastors, but our ministry residents.
Yep.
We've heard some really, really good teaching. And we've been, just to be candid, we've been dealing with the latest round of COVID again, with a lot of our residents and a lot of different staff and people quarantining and all that.
A lot of people out. And,
People out.
Thank goodness they're out. They're quarantining.
Yeah.
But it's not bad.
Yeah.
We don't know of anybody that's really, really sick.
Yeah.
And
not like it was in July.
No, not even close.
Not even close to what it was in July.
That.
So, but we are seeing that, and I think we see the effect of that on Sundays as well. Some people maybe choosing to stay home. But the good news is, it looks like cases may be peaking.
Yep.
And we're getting to the other side of this. And because this thing is so contagious, this latest variant, it gives more people an opportunity to have some immunity.
Yep.
So whether through the vaccine or through having COVID or both, because a lot of people who got COVID lately, a lot of them have been vaccinated. We're getting to what they call herd immunity.
Yep. They say it could be gone in a month. Which would be
awesome. Well, hopefully
in the U.S.
It could be more manageable, certainly, and just become like any other sickness that we deal with.
Yeah.
And that we mitigate. So we hope you're well, hope you stay well. And if you are got a cold, sick in some way, or feel that, best thing to do, just stay home.
Yeah.
And
One of the things we're going to do today is do a Q&A.
Oh, okay.
But
all right,
while we're on the topic,
okay,
some people might be out there and they're like, hey, I hear you're happy about all these new faces on Daily Wisdom. Man, I would really just love to hear from Pastor John, my pastor. Why are we hearing from all these other voices? And here's the thing. We are never in Scripture told to go and preach all the time.
Right.
We're called to go and make disciples.
Yeah.
And part of one of the things that I love about you and your heart and the heart of Journey is we just want to raise up more and more people and disciple them and then send them out. Not only is that the heart of the residency, that's the heart of Journey. And it can't happen without you because you give that platform away so often. And people don't know that. Pastor John is a preaching machine, and he could preach every day, he could preach every Sunday, but he chooses to share the platform because of discipleship. And I love that about you. And we raise up so many new leaders.
Thank you.
And it attracts great leaders because they know that they're going to be cared for and discipled here. And I love that.
Well, thanks for saying that. Thanks for noticing that. I've not gotten that question a lot. Maybe you get it more than I do about why am I not doing more of these proverbs. I've gotten a lot of that in the past, but I think there's a couple reasons why. Number one, I just think it's healthier for the church. It's healthier for me to not be the only voice or even the primary voice for Journey. I think it's healthier to hear the multiple voices, and that's what you hear in Daily Wisdom. You hear some perspectives that you wouldn't hear from me. But the second thing, and probably the biggest thing that I think is important, is that when a church becomes personality dependent, that we're dependent on this particular personality and this particular guy doing this particular thing, I think it's trouble. I think it's a danger. I think it's a danger for the church. I think it's a danger for that person because that person can become so filled with ego and filled with a sense of inflated self-importance. Boy, I got to do this. God needs me. This church needs me. And when we get in those kinds of thinking patterns, it's not healthy. It's not good for us. I think there's a proverb that says pride goes before a fall. Yeah. So
and when I bring that question, I wasn't even saying that was a question people ask as much.
No, but
I think people may wonder. But here's the cool part about you, Journey, and this is what I love. Every single communicator that speaks is being flooded with encouragement, and we see it on the YouTube comments. I'm hearing a lot of them are getting emails and texts. We're seeing that on Facebook. You guys are doing such a great job of encouraging all these other voices and leaning in and saying, okay, God's trying to speak to me today. Right. And I love that about Journey.
Yeah.
Love it.
So Pastor Dustin mentioned we're going to do some question and answers. So this is going to be a new feature we're introducing today. Of questions and answers. So in the future, if you have a question you'd like to ask Pastor Dustin, we're not guaranteeing we're going to answer it in this forum, but if you have a question, you can submit it to the website that you see on the screen right now. Just submit that, and we'll come back. Maybe do this once a month. Something like that. I just enjoy this kind of thing.
We'll see what happens, but we want to.
We'll see how this goes.
We want to make it interactive, and we want you to feel like we're hitting whatever it is you want. And so we want you to submit them, and you can email them to us.
So I'm gonna start with the first question.
Let's go,
because this is a question that I've been asked a lot post-COVID, and the question is this: will we ever have Saturday night service again?
Did we ever have a Saturday night service? It seems like a long time ago, but we did used to have a Saturday night service.
And had it for 6 or 7 years.
Yeah, we did.
I think for about a 6 or 7 year period, we had Saturday night service. So let me respond to that in a couple ways. Number one, the reason we added a Saturday night service is because we were running out of room on Sunday morning. So we always have to have the context. We didn't just decide, hey, let's do a Saturday night service because it'd be real convenient for more people to come to, or for some people to come to. That's not the reason we started a service. That's never the reason you add another service. You add another service out of necessity. And when I go back and look at the numbers where we were in 2012, 2013, somewhere in that neighborhood, that's when we started Saturday night service. We were at probably 80% capacity full at our 2 Sunday morning services. I mean, we were seeing, 600, 650. That's kind of 80% capacity of our current sanctuary at the Apopka campus. And so we thought, well,
when you're at 80%, for those that don't know, it feels like 100.
Yeah, it does.
Because if you come in with a family of 3 or 4, you can't sit together. So 80% is 100. That's where we go. And so wanted them to bring that.
Yeah, people can't find seats together if you got a family of 4. So yeah, that's always been kind of a rule of thumb in growing churches. When your space is 80% full, it's for all practical purpose full.
Yeah.
So I think that's one reason. We're not anywhere near that right now as we come out of COVID. We're seeing crowds right now of 350 to 400. Per service. Before Omicron kind of appeared, we were seeing 400, 500 people, not 500, maybe 400 people on a good day at one particular service. But we're not seeing that right now. So we've got a ways to go to get to capacity. But a second big thing, Pastor Dustin, as you know, it's the volunteer base that just to put on a third service. It's not just me preaching. As you said, I'm happy to preach and I can do that online, but there's music, there's tech, there's next gen, there's a lot that goes into putting a service together.
There's a greeting team, parking team, there's all kinds. And then when you do one service, a standalone, it's hard to get a volunteer that just coming to serve and not attend, which is on a Sunday, you could attend one, you could serve one.
Exactly.
And then if you do 2 on a Saturday night, well, you're definitely not going to be able to fill that right now. So.
So that's kind of where we are. I'm not saying never, but I am saying that I don't see that in the foreseeable future. I just don't think we have the need for it. And I don't think we have the volunteer infrastructure right now to do that. I believe we'll get back there. I believe we'll see increased crowds on Sunday morning, but then we need to say, well, is a Saturday night the best option? Mm-hmm. Are there other better options that we could utilize to create more room?
Yeah, and you might be thinking, man, I want a Saturday night service back. You could help by bringing hundreds of your friends. You max out Sunday morning, max out 3-4 service on a Sunday, and we'll see what the future holds.
So you had a question kind of related to that about a third campus.
Yeah. So, one question is people say, well, we got 2 campuses.
Mm-hmm. Physical
campuses we have online. We used to have a Lake Mary. Are we ever going to launch a third campus? It's a fair question. It's a great question. I think it does go alongside the same mentality and the same thought of adding a service. Adding a service is very, very closely related to adding another campus.
It really is. It really is. So are we ever going to do that, Pastor Dustin?
So I'll say it like this. Chick-fil-A, when they first started, they had one location. And I think it was it Dan Cathy or Truett Cathy?
Truett is the dad. He's the founder.
So Truett Cathy had a bunch of businessmen come and say, you gotta open up more and more Chick-fil-A's. You got to, it's just, and he said, no, we're not gonna open up, we're gonna do one. And they said, we don't understand. They said, we're gonna make it so good that the people demand that we open up more. And then the rest is history. And the struggle is when people launch them ahead of when they're ready, whether it's their systems, whether the people aren't ready, whether capacity is not ready, that's when you can potentially not set up a campus or a service to win. So what we want to do is we want to take care of the thing that we currently have, make it so good that when we are ready, both with the amount of people, with the systems, with the structure, we can say, hey, this community over here, we're drawing a lot from there. Let's plant there. So the heartbeat is absolutely, we want to be able to launch another campus one day. Right now, we want to be able to get the numbers back up to a healthy, sustainable pace, and then be able to launch there. Because what we want to do is we want to send people, which means that would then create a vacuum, a hole at the sending site.
Well, and what we've learned, there's been some really helpful things. There's been some painful things we learned. You mentioned when we closed Lake Mary a few years ago. One of the things that we learned is you have to have a healthy core of people to send out. And when I say healthy, I'm not just talking about emotionally, spiritually. I'm talking about numerically. We need at least 100 adult volunteers.
Yeah, when you say core, that means
that's the core.
They're serving, they're attending, they're committed.
Yes, you're not just talking about attenders. You're talking about, we have 100 people committed, 100 adults committed to that site. And we're a ways away from that. Right now.
But it's a marker that we're praying and going for.
Absolutely. But
it's a great question.
We do think at some point in the future there will be. And every now and then we just have to admit, sometimes the Lord surprises you. I think somebody just preached on that people make plans, but God determines their steps.
Yes.
Right? I think we just heard that.
And I even had, I wasn't planning on sharing this, I'll even share this. So you're talking about campuses. Had an interesting conversation last week.
Oh, wow.
With a gentleman from Bangladesh.
Me
too.
Where is that at in Lake County, Bangladesh?
Lake County.
I'm trying to place that.
It's several thousand miles to the west or east, however you want to get there.
So it's not in Lake County, it's not in Seminole County, it's not in Orange County.
And he's somebody that watches every week, and he said
he's probably watching right now.
He's probably watching
watches
right now.
Midweek Conversation.
It's pronounced me too.
Me too.
And he said,
me too.
He said, Pastor, we'd love to have.
I see you too.
Yep. He said, I'd love to have a Journey campus in Bangladesh. And so you might be thinking, man, I would love to have a campus and this part or that part, and just be praying that God would allow us to continue to grow so that we can launch more campuses to reach more people.
Final word about that is sometimes there are other churches that reach out and they're struggling. COVID has almost closed their doors for a lot of different reasons, and we're seeing that around the country. A lot of it's kind of depressing when you hear the number of church buildings that actually close in any given year, but COVID's accelerated a lot of that. So we don't know that we might have the opportunity, and I don't know of anything. I'm not alluding or hinting at anything. But you never know, church could reach out in the future and say, hey, what would Journey like to have a campus at this particular facility? So those are all things that we think through.
Yeah, and I think about when Jesus said, he said, if you're faithful with the little, we'll give you more. And so that's what, kind of that true at Kathy. Let's be faithful with what God's given us now, which is 2 campuses and 2 communities. Let's serve them. Let's reach them. Let's love them. Pray for them to the best of our ability, and then trust to see what the Lord has in store.
Yep.
So another question, will the Orlando Magic ever win an NBA championship?
Wow, boy.
A lot of people will ask.
You and I would like nothing better than to see that.
We don't see
we're both
eye to
basketball
eye
fans. We're Magic fans.
We don't see eye to eye in college sports.
Yeah.
Kentucky, Florida Gators. But in the NBA, we are in sync. We love the Orlando Magic. I'm a big Magic fan. I love the Orlando Magic.
Here's a better question.
Yep.
Will the Orlando Magic ever draft a guy that doesn't get hurt as soon as we draft him?
Or go to the Lakers, Dwight Howard. And
well,
Shaquille
that takes a few years. I would just settle, Jonathan Isaac, Jalen Suggs, Cole Anthony, you name it. All these guys get hurt. We draft them and they get hurt and they can't play. Jonathan Isaac hadn't played in almost 2 seasons right now.
Listen, these are not topics or questions we like to discuss. Yeah. We're just trying to answer your questions. And so many of you are asking the question, and the answer to that is not only will the Magic win an NBA championship, I'm going to throw out the word dynasty.
Oh, wow.
Dynasty coming to the Magic. So you heard it here first, folks. All right, another question. How do you prepare for a sermon? It's a great question. People wonder, Pastor.
Listen, Tina, who watches every week, Tina and her husband Mike.
Yep.
That's
great people.
Sat on the front row.
Yep.
At our 9:30 service at the Apopka campus. Tina wanted me to talk a little bit about that, and this is probably all that we have time for.
Yep.
To kind of wrap up today. That's a great question, and I like to spend some time every week working on probably 2 messages. To be honest with you. I take Thursdays and I work from home. I've done that for years, not only here at Journey, but in the previous church I was at. I take all day Thursday and I don't schedule anything. I don't go anywhere, try not to. Every now and then something comes up and it can't be helped. But I just try to stay at home and I try to get a rough draft of maybe 80%, 85% of a message that's really for 2, 3, sometimes 4 weeks out.
Yep.
And that helps me stay ahead, which is important for me. I just don't want to work under that week by week pressure. You and I are fans of Pastor Chris Hodges from the Church of the Highlands up in Alabama. Great church. And he made the observation, I never wanted to preach knowing I needed that week's offering. Because that's a lot of pressure. Yeah. Well, I never wanted to go into a Sunday knowing I just wrote that baby on Saturday.
Yeah.
Or on the Friday before.
I don't want that kind of
pressure.
What that does to your home life at the last second, that's not healthy.
Yeah. So, but in terms of preparing for a sermon, a lot of it depends on what I've heard. A lot of times sermons I'm sharing are sermons I've heard. Good preachers become good by listening and learning from other good preachers.
Yeah, we're in this series.
I think that's important.
Daily wisdom. And the thing that I know of any good preacher, and I definitely know of you that they don't know, what your Thursday looks like, you didn't start on Thursday.
No, exactly.
You are a wisdom machine. Literally, podcasts, books, sermons, every day, all the time, in the mornings. He's just soaking it in. And so now you're coming with already some things to the plate, and then on Thursdays, you're just kind of bringing that out.
Probably for both of us, Dustin, I would say maybe not on every sermon, but almost every sermon, I've probably read a book on that topic.
Yeah.
I've probably read at least one book on that topic, and then I've probably listened to 2 or 3 other sermons.
Yep.
And so for them, I'm not the most original guy in the world. I'm not, so I know what sounds good to me. I know what helps me. And I feel like, how can I synthesize that through my personality? And how can I share that? A guy said a long time ago that preaching is divine truth through human personality. Mm-hmm. It's divine truth through human personality. So the truth is the truth, no matter where you hear it.
Yep.
And how does God express that through your personality? So I think that's important. But just like you did with the soundtrack series that you, Pastor Dustin, led that, you did that. You read a book.
Yep.
by
Called
John Acuff.
John Acuff. He
By
wrote
John Acuff.
soundtracks.
And that inspired you. So a lot of times it's what we read, it's what we hear.
Yeah.
And you know, if you've been around Journey any length of time, one of my favorite sources for content is John Ortberg.
Yeah.
His books, his sermons. I read that stuff and I think, man, I got to preach that.
Mm-hmm.
This is too good not to preach. And I think there's a little precedent for that of what Paul told Timothy in 2 Timothy. He said, the things you've heard from me,
That's good.
teach other people who will share with others.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of it. So you and I, you're a great student as well. You listen. Pastor Dustin's sharp. He picks up things really quick. And you listen and you make notes about a lot of things, and you're able to say, how do we turn that? One word that's kind of old school for what we do is we sermonize.
Yeah.
And sermonize is there's a story that happens in our life. There's an article we read. There's a headline we read, and we think, wow, there's a sermon there.
Yep.
There's an illustration there. And I think good preachers, good communicators have a bias for that. Mm-hmm. And I've had that all my life. I collect, like you say, I don't know if it's wisdom, but I collect material all the time.
You're a great gatherer.
I've got hard old school files. I'm talking about a lot of files with envelopes and just things I've cut out, things I've printed out inside them. Now, a lot of that's all online now, but I still have a lot of that stuff. Yeah.
So one of the things that we talk about is we love reading, and we really do. And so when I want to encourage you, if you like to read, or if you hear a message and you're like, man, I want more of that, that sounded good, pay attention to the books that we talk about, because
that's probably where it came from.
Most of the time, we're not going to mention a book that we don't recommend. Yeah. And so if you want to take some things further, Pastor John, myself, we're always randomly saying this author or this book. And so feel free to take that book and run with it.
Leaders are readers.
Yep.
Leaders are learners.
There you go. Yep.
You know, leaders are readers. Leaders are learners.
Yeah.
And I think that's how you keep getting better.
Absolutely. I love it. These are good questions, Pastor John. I like hearing it all come out. That's good. Hopefully you enjoyed it as well.
Yeah. So again, if you have a question for us in the future, look at the link, follow that link, submit the question, and Pastor Dustin and I will kind of look through them and select a few and share with them. We had a whole list of other questions.
Yep.
That we didn't get to today.
Now, Pastor John, I'm nervous about this. Sometimes I'll do a Q&A, and I'll have a friend of mine that will always catch on to stuff like this, and he'll
asking for a friend.
He'll ask some random dumb question to throw me off. So, if you're tempted to do that, don't do that.
Well, maybe the magic question was our question today.
Well, that was a softball. We'll take that one.
Hey, thanks for joining us on this week's edition of Midweek Conversation. Keep leaning into daily wisdom. Yeah. 3 challenges. Read 1 chapter of the book of Proverbs every day, hopefully the chapter that corresponds with the day of the month. Secondly, pick out a verse. Pick out a verse and post it. Write it down, look at it, think about it, pray about it. Pray that in. And thirdly, don't take the journey alone. Share it with people that in your house, in your dorm, at your work, with a neighbor, but share it. Thanks for joining us on this week's edition of Midweek Conversation. As always, we are loving the journey.